Well, it looks like we have a bit of an update here when it comes to Sony and Project Spartacus, which is their code name for a streaming service that at least is being framed right now as an answer to Game Pass, which we'll talk a little bit about here when it comes to that and how we should be viewing this. But it looks like we could be seeing this service here pretty soon. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave Plus channel, make sure you subscribe down below. This is actually a story that was published over on Bloomberg from Jason Schreier and Takashi Machizuki, saying Sony Group Corp is preparing to introduce a new video game subscription service for the PlayStation as early as next week, said people familiar with the plans. It sounds like they are close enough now to where it's being prepped for PR that they're going to have like a PlayStation blog post essentially explaining this. And that's kind of how I'm assuming this is going to happen. They'll put a tweet out, they'll have a press release go out to different outlets, and then they'll just post up an entire written piece on their PlayStation blog, because there's going to be a lot of information to go over here when they do inevitably like pull back the curtain on this Game Pass answer. They say the service, which has been in development under the codename Project Spartacus, is Sony's answer to Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass, and a sort of Netflix for video games that has amassed more than 25 million subscribers. Sony's will debut with a splashy lineup of hit games from recent years, said the people who requested to remain anonymous because the plans are private. But what I'm looking at here is more them rebranding PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Now has just been this weird thing for a while for Sony. They don't really seem to care about it, but then they do, because they had like Shadow Warrior 3 go on there, which was a brand new at the time, right? When it first came out, third-party title. That's actually pretty fun. And it was just like, here you go. If you're a PlayStation Now subscriber, you can just download it. They did something very similar with Grand Theft Auto. I think, what was it, 3? But that came like a month after, which, again, was a weird thing, but I have a feeling they had like a discount or something in there. Like, they didn't want to pay too much money for Grand Theft Auto 3 going in. Okay, we'll give it a month. But this looks like Sony is going to be pushing to be a bit more, I'd say, invested in PlayStation Now, especially since it would then also be tied into PlayStation Plus. We know there's going to be a couple of different tiers. Sounds like going to be 3 different tiers, with the top one including game demos, as well as the ability to stream, which is PlayStation Now, at least for the streaming side of things. Demos are interesting because, once again, it sounds like Sony understands what Microsoft is doing with Game Pass, which is, well, these games are all going in day one. You want to play Forza Horizon 5 on release day? Hey, if you have Game Pass, go ahead and do it. Sony isn't going to be going that route. Their games cost a lot of money to make, and they are, of course, looking to sell these at $70 price points. They themselves went up in price because, well, according to them, their games are just getting too expensive to create at the $60 tier. And we've heard from a lot of analysts in gaming that are like, hey, games are just the cheapest they've ever been right now when it comes to the production that goes into this. And they're not wrong in that degree, inflation, all that, but we're also seeing like millions and millions of copies sell regularly for all these different titles that release. So while games are becoming more expensive, the audience is just so much larger now than it's ever been. Now, I do like the idea of demos, though, and I wonder if that's going to work similar to what we have with EA Play. If you're unaware, maybe you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate right now because EA Play is just thrown into it. Certain games that EA releases, you can just play for like 10 hours. Grid Legends is a great example. A lot of people didn't realize this. You could just download and play that right now on EA Play for a solid 10 hours, try out the game, see what you think. Battlefield was the same way. That actually saved me some money because, well, if you played it there, you could see a lot of the issues that the game had and the lack of content and all of that. And you just pass on it until they are inevitably able to fix it, or the game goes on sale. Battlefield's fallen to like $30 now. So just that EA Play demo probably saved people quite a bit of money there. But I am curious if Sony's going to be able to go that route, because some of their games, while I'm not saying they're like 10 hours long, you can get like a good feel of the entire experience probably in 10 hours. Like if Ratchet and Clank had a demo and you could play 10 hours, that's just about the whole game almost, right? So I wonder if it's going to be more like 2-hour demos, 3-hour demos. I like the idea, though, of them allowing you to try some of these games that they release, and maybe even third-party titles, especially smaller games that people may pass on. Now, I also want to touch very quickly on one line here that says Sony's will debut with a splashy lineup. This is something that I've heard as well, and that got me immediately thinking of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation Portable games, because if you look back, the lineup at that time, it was a lot of third-party stuff, especially now we consider Crash Bandicoot, which was massive on the PS1. Well, I mean, that's Microsoft's property now. About to be Microsoft's property. You look at Final Fantasy, which was really big on the PlayStation. That's Square. So if Sony's really going to make a big push here and invest serious capital into the idea of having a large backlog of games, I mean, I expect them to go all out, especially with some of those legacy systems. This could also be a great time to get games like Metal Gear Solid, which, by the way, have disappeared off of stores. Maybe we could have Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and maybe even games from the PSP like Peace Walker all show up in this service. And then you can start thinking about the other titles on the PS2, maybe some hidden gems, for example, or on the PSP that a lot of people didn't really get a chance to play at the time. Now, I am curious about the PlayStation 3. And the reason I bring this up, we assume we have to stream the PS3, right? Like, that's just how they do it now on PS Now, whereas the PS1 and 2 games are native. You can play them on your PlayStation 5 after you download them. But the PS3, you have to stream from their servers. But in this case, streaming is the highest tier. Now, that could mean that the back catalog of games are only for that top tier, maybe just PS3 games. But is there a potential scenario where they figured out how to allow you to play PS3 games natively? Now, I don't think on any of these you're going to be able to pop a disc in, mostly because, well, CDs don't work on the PS5, so that throws PS1 games out the window immediately. But I'm curious if we will have native support for the PS3 in general, as in you can download them and play them on your PlayStation 5. Maybe it's just a PS5 thing because they couldn't even get it to work on the PS4. Who knows? I'm still leaning towards the idea of it being streamed, and hey, if they show up and it's a native version of PS3 titles, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I'm excited to finally see what Project Spartacus exactly is, how Sony's going to go about marketing, and how they're going to go from moving people over from PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus subscriptions into this tiered system, and when it'll actually launch. Like, we could see a press release go out with the news breaking on Monday, and who knows, by the end of the week, they could be looking to get this thing launched, or maybe even the following month. But it's going to come down to the battle of the subscription services, and we're going to have all three companies seemingly having a back catalog of games, and they're all kind of approaching it in different ways, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. So interesting stuff, and we'll keep our eyes out next week to see if Sony really is ready to announce this thing. But let me know what you guys think about Project Spartacus down below and what you would like to see from it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.